biodiversity at the tidal energy site in Perth.
Hello everybody, my name is Antoine Carlier and I'm working at the Ifremer Institute in Brest. My talk deals with the impact of a small-scale tidal project on Benthic compartment, and I'm going to present you here the objective and the first result of Benthic survey we have started 2 years ago at the tidal site of Paimpol-Bréhat. This is a collaborative project which gathers 3 different French institutes, Ifremer, and France Énergie Marine, which is a new institute created 2 years ago and which is fully dedicated to research on renewables, and the French National Museum, who brings very useful skills in taxonomic identification. Just for your information, Morgane Lejar is in this room, so if you want to speak with her, it will be possible. Just to remind you where the tidal project of Paimpol-Bréhat is, you have is the northern coast of Brittany, and our study area is located here. So it's one of the 3 most important tidal areas in the French coast, after the Rat Blanchard area, which shows the strongest current, and after the Frontier Strait close to Brest. Brest is just here. Just to locate more precisely, this is the island of Bréhat, and Paimpol Harbor is just further south. So the technical project is engaged by the EDF company, the French EDF company, which plan to install 4 open hydro turbines during the next year. They will be probably grid connected in 2 years. In this area, the tidal currents reach 2.5 meters per second, so it's not so. It's far from what you can observe in Rat Blanchard Strait. And the deployment area is located between 20 and 50 meter depth. In terms of ecological context, we have very few knowledge about the Benthic compartment. Interestingly, this tidal project is included in a conservation zone designated by the European directive. And this project is also included in the crustacean reserve that you can see here in the yellowish part. Actually, the Fisheries Committee of Paimpol suggested to put the tidal turbine into the reserve. And the company follows the suggestion. But accepted the environmental impact assessment done in 2009, which is rather light with respect to research activity, we have virtually no data about benthos in this specific area. This zone is also, since 2 years ago, an experimental site of the new Institute France Énergie Marine, and we decided to undertake a collaborative project, especially on the question of impact on benthos. So the objective was, first of all, to undertake a more detailed Benthic survey on this area, and more precisely to respond to 2 main questions. The first one is to we want to know what could be the impact of energy removal to the Benthic community, and the second one we want to approach is the reef effect of the artificial reef, especially related to the installation of the cable, which is unburied on most of its route. So in terms of method, we choose to make a high definition video survey on this area, because most of the classical approach for Benthic study were not suitable for this quite hard zone. As you can see here, the topography of the bottom is quite heterogeneous. So we use this kind of video frame, which is a drop-down video approach, and we made about 35 video profiles during March 2012, in order to cover a wide range around the tidal deployment area. This is the green dots here, and the cable route as well. We did last year 25 additional profiles that you cannot show on that picture, but these additional profiles are more concentrated around the deployment area. We get two kinds of information by this approach. We get information when the video frame is flying over the bottom, and we get information when the frame is landing on the bottom. By that way, we were able to capture 1,500 landing views. So we capture very high resolution images, which has been positioned in a geographic information system. So this is the position of each landing during the video profile we did. So this is the first result we had from this Benthic survey. It clearly confirms that most of the bottom is covered by rocky substrate. More precisely, we have most of the time big rock or boulders, which are surrounded by gravels or shells that probably move very fast during the tidal events. On this picture, you can see that the top of the boulder are most often covered by a rich epifauna, but at the interface between gravel and a boulder, some area are like to be under the influence of moving gravel. In terms of faunistic taxonomy, we were able to identify more than 100 species, which is obvious an underestimation of the real biodiversity on this site. But only on the basis of high resolution image, we were able to identify to the species level about half of the taxa. Some taxa were of particular ecological interest, or either because of their reef construction role, or by their rare distribution over the surrounding area. More specifically, we were able to identify about 20 different species assemblages over this small area. This is the most often encountered taxa. On this zone, we had most often Ascidian sponge, and especially encrusting sponges. We had cnidarians like this Corynactis. We had also bryozoan. This is the most ubiquitous taxa, and thanks to the flying survey, allow us to identify more dispersed species like these big sponges or large crustaceans. If we go more in details, we can see that specific taxa give a very interesting information in terms of environmental condition. And this species, for example, has not homogeneous distribution over the area. this is Hydrozoa species, which is more concentrated around the deployment turbine site, hopefully. We identify as well non-native species, at least 2 species, including this gastropod, Crepidula fornicata, who has a wide spread distribution. And I remind you that this is a survey done before any long-term deployment and before the deployment of the cable. And lastly, we were able to identify very rare species like this Bryozone species, that we found only one time in this on that point. Now, in terms of physical parameters, which are really important to better understand how these species are distributed over the area, I would like to show that many data are existing and probably available in the next month. We have especially the nature of a large cover of the nature of the bottom, a fine bathymetry, and of particular interest is a modelization of fine modelization of current speeds over the study area. So once this physical data will be available, we have to go further, and the next steps will be, first of all, to better mapping the Benthic biodiversity on the tidal area. We have still to include data acquired last year, which is more focused around this deployment turbine. And then we will have to aggregate this data, because each dot represents a very small surface area, which is not really relevant to identify and to represent the biodiversity indices. So a question that has to be solved is the size of the spatial unit we have to choose. And then we will have to relate the most important environmental parameter with this phonistic pattern, for example, by statistical modeling. And lastly, this is for the long term, we will have to try to identify the most relevant taxa or the most relevant facies to try to investigate what could be the effect of energy removal once the fourth turbine will be deployed on this site. Lastly, I would like to show you 2 or 3 slides about the second question we addressed for this research activity. This is the reef effect of the power cable, which is laid on most of its route, and we choose to focus our survey on 5 different stations. The black one are a survey of the protection structure of the cable, which is made by iron cast, and the 2 other stations in blue are stabilizing structure, which has been put last year to stabilize all the cable against the current. So the EDF company puts about 100 concrete mattresses all along the cable route. For this purpose, we choose to use high definition photo made by scuba diving, because the depth is more never overpass 30 meters in this area. So we establish a protocol for the survey of the cable protection that you can see on these pictures. The objective is to compare the epifaunal on the cable on references area, which is on both parts of the cable. And lastly, we focus our attention on these concrete mattresses. And here again, we are going to make each 6 months pictures of the basic element of this artificial reef, and some pictures last month show the first species established on this structure. And interestingly, we found as well large mobile benthic species, which raise a question of potential habitat for this artificial structure. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, please be back here at 1:45.